my name's John Fisher. I've lived in Edinburgh for a couple of years or so. I often escape the busy streets by walking along a small river which runs through the city centre. Close by, a small mountain called Arthur's Seat overlooks the coast and gives me a great view of Edinburgh Castle. All very fine, but I often think back to my days in a small village with a population about 100, which compares to Edinburgh's 300,000, and that's before the tourists arrive. I remember the tranquility of valleys and lakes, an old Anglo-Saxon church set between two villages, the sight of mountains leading up to Skiddaw, and the view out of my bedroom window beyond my old school. I woke up to a fine day, and then the postman arrived. This letter contained an invitation to a special birthday party. I booked a hotel room for me and my wife and made a note in my diary. The big day soon came, and we arrived in good time. The Green Hill Hotel stands in large grounds. To the left of the main building stands a large modern function room. Derek Tolson was celebrating his 70th birthday. I'd known Derek for over 50 years. He knew how to throw a party. Waiter service dinner for all guests, and only the best would do for his family and friends. I noticed the dance floor clearing and wondered why, and I didn't have long to wait. A variety of music acts soon got underway. Then the disco started up. From the back of the room, I noticed activity on stage. Yep, it was Derek and his band getting ready to put on their show. A few minutes later, they launched into the first number.
Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter.
It will be well past midnight before I got to my bed.
Here comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say.
I was passing through Ireby, so I called in at Derek's home. He showed me to his music room, and I couldn't help noticing pictures and mementos hanging on each wall. As I looked higher up, I spotted an important photograph taken in 1964. That got me thinking, and on the road back to Edinburgh, I realised a very special story needed to be told, and maybe I had the material to put it all together. Old photos, videos, newspaper clips and the internet, and one small audio tape from 1964 had me puzzled. I gathered together everything I could find, but I still needed to make some calls to 4 other guys. Music in Edinburgh is of course well represented, be it big shows or open house in small bars, or the usual lone piper. There's one thing for sure though, what happened to us in 1964 will never be repeated.
The children and the early 60s, rock and roll music conquered the kingdom. The centre of the movement is neither London nor Liverpool, and way up north in a village near Woodson in Cumberland, the realm of the Firebirds. We used to play regular on Sunday nights, and there used to be bushwalks going from Worthington and Whitehaven, and we used to pull up on there with the buses and screaming there. We were better on the beach actually.
The days of the Firebirds, there'll never be anything like that again. I mean, it was just a complete era of sort of just calmness. There was nobody out for fights. It was just a real good dance, real good music.
I find a lot of the early stuff we played, it was a little bit planned, you know. We suddenly started doing Chuck Berry and the Rolling Stones running through, and I really enjoyed that. It was raucous.
I particularly remember Bobby Brown Fall. He was so laid back, almost horizontal. He just used to stand there and strum away at his guitar.
I think the bass used to play itself with that, you know.
About $500,000 famed autograph.
Billy Douglas with his collar up and his gel, but his sort of bill-creamed hair. Oh, absolutely brilliant.
Do you remember anything about Global Ireby, Billy?
Oh, a lot. Some of them look great. Basically, great Saturday nights, fabulous crowding,
Kids,
really exciting.
kids screaming. Billy?
Kids screaming, women trying to get over you.
That's right, Billy.
I used to enjoy pointing to in the Black Lion before we started the gig, but it was a job getting out of it at times. The committee used to come and get us.
Billy, you used to do Chuck Berry to a T. Do you remember that?
Roll Over Beethoven, Johnny Be Good, Sweet Little 16, all Perry's numbers.
It's no wonder they needed a new floor in the Globe Hall when they got dancing to that.
It's one when Chuck Berry made a new songwriter when I had finished.
Help me information to get in touch with my Marie.
Billy, have you any memories of the Firebirds in 1964?
A gig we done at Houghton outside Carlisle for a fiver. Remember the gig we done at Malham, Mr. Boston remember it, and I nearly fell off the stage.
You just remember the good times in the Globe Hall. They'd come top of the list, surely, Billy.
Oh yeah, without each other, without great memories.
Yeah, we were just treated like the Beatles, really.
The thing that I remember about Global Ireby and the Ireby dances were the sort of car loads, bus loads that used to come up, park outside the pub, and the heat in the room and the hustle and the bustle and everybody having to sort of move over, dance, push each other around, what have you, to get a good look at what was going on at the front.
Further back in 1957, I got interested in playing the guitar after hearing a record by the great Buddy Holly.
If you knew Peggy Sue, then you know why I feel blue without Peggy. My Peggy Sue. Oh, well, I love you, gal, yes, I need you, Peggy Sue. I love you.
Sorry about that guitar playing, but I mean, how often does a guy get to play along with Buddy Holly? And playing Buddy Holly songs gave me a chance to sing, and gave Billy Douglas a rest, I suppose.
Oh, mommy, mommy, leave me, I go.
It was absolutely incredible. Billy Douglas used to scream at the audience and they used to scream back. Bob Brown over on the far left had a cigarette in his mouth and he just, eyes half shut, just thumping away on his bass guitar.
They'll be rocking on bandstand in Philadelphia, PA. Deep in the heart.
He and Derek Tolson, we just let them get on with it. I mean, it was just incredible. Peter, he was stripped to the waist, dripping in sweat, and thumping away on the drums. That place was just alive until about midnight.
It was wonderful. My brother really on the drums, he was amazing. His power, the power that he needed to play the drums and beat away all night, and he used to swing his hair about. He used to have all the girls swooning.
Looking down the hall and out through the far windows, I could see crowds milling around in the village square. Buses waiting to pick them up. Unbelievable. Around 1954, I would be 11 years old and Elvis came on the scene. And strange people in charge of the BBC wouldn't play his records. And in the Globe Hall, music was played by Billy Bowman and his band, popular at local dances. And our only singer had been John Skillicorn, who performed at concerts. He had an incredible voice, could have been world famous, but didn't turn up for his recording test in London. Another Cumbrian from America, while his mother was from Cumberland, a guy called Bill Haley hit the radio waves.
I had a girl, Donna was her name. Since she left me, I've never been the same.
It was Tuesday, 3rd of February 1959, and we're at school, and we haven't heard the news. Joe Cusack's coffee bar in Wigton was empty.
Dance party rolled into Clear Lake, Iowa for a concert at the Surf Ballroom. Among the headliners were 3 young, talented musicians, Buddy Holly, J.P. the Big Bopper Richardson, and Richie Valens. It turned out to be their final performance. A tragic plane crash claimed all 3 lives, plus the pilot, on the way to the next tour stop.
As that sad news spread around the school, I remember meeting up with a good friend of mine, Eric Seary. He bought most of Buddy Holly's records over the previous short 2 years, and he was speechless. He just stood looking at the ground, lost for words. In February 1958, of course, we'd had the Munich air crash where many of the Manchester United players died. That was bad enough news, but the following February, to have the news about Buddy Holly, that just seemed too much. The great thing about Buddy Holly records was that you could play the songs if you learned about 3 chords on the guitar, and that gave all the lads a chance to play his stuff.
At the beginning of 1960 I'd left school, and at the local Ireby Youth Club, held just inside that double door, I first met Derek Tolson, and he had an electric guitar. I'd also got my first job in Carlisle at Anderson's Timbering Porters, and I got talking to one of the apprentices, a young guy called Dave McCumiskey. He raved on about his guitar and his plans to join a band, and sure enough he did, pictured here with Carlisle group Ramrods, who went on to be known as the VIPs. Things were starting to buzz in London, and the Two Ice Coffee Bar became a place where young artists could get heard. And one guy called Tommy Steele got a recording contract. I soon got a different job in Newcastle, and this got me used to the hustle and bustle of city life, with its trolleybuses and living in digs. But my job meant I spent long training periods in London, and I hated the place and had to travel in the hot, sweaty underground tube trains. A nightmare. I very much missed the civilised lifestyle of Cumberland, and after 2 years hard training I managed to get relocated to my home area. It was now 1963. At home I did mess about on my Spanish guitar, but I soon noticed the sounds beginning to come out from Liverpool. A man called Brian Epstein had decided to manage a band who for ages had been trying to get a recording contract. Few people realised just what he'd started. This was the Liverpool sound, and a lad called Billy J. Kramer soon jumped on the bandwagon.
Why only they be sad if you're bad to me?
Then along came Jerry and the Pacemakers. One of the very best, but foremost.
You make me feel proud. You make me want to shout all around.
By the end of 1963, I also thought about buying a new guitar, but first, in Keswick, I listened to a band called The Defenders, and this Workington band had Alistair Duncan on lead guitar, Tony Brannan on saxophone. I did some more guitar practice at home, and then in February '64, this record made my mind up.
Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout, twist and shout.
I contacted Derek Tolson to see if he fancied forming a band, and he sure did. I bought an electric guitar, and Derek knew a possible singer and a bass player. I used a minivan for my work and could carry drums if we could find a drummer. I press-ganged my brother Peter into signing up for a full set of drums on hire purchase. He needed a hobby. His idea of fun was plunging into the River Allen and grabbing trout with his bare hands. Also, his idea of an early bath didn't seem sensible at all.
While Peter was practicing on his drums in the house, apart from taking aspirin for bad headaches, we were urgently looking forward to finding somewhere to play and practice. The Globe Hall Ireby let us have some time, 2 or 3 hours each Sunday, and then we went out and started to play some of the local pubs.
Nobody knows where my Johnny has gone, but Judy left the same time.
We played in any pub that would have us, but the Horse and Jockey in Plumland became irregular for us. The place was always packed, and we did songs, instrumentals and guest artists took a turn. Jean Latimer arrived with her boyfriend Terry Forrester. She was an amazing singer and had the locals cheering for more. I then realised the band had something special.
The logo that the Firebirds had, I remember them choosing the name Firebirds and went through lots of different ideas.
This series of photographs were taken a couple of weeks before we went on stage for the first time. The lads rallied round, and the Firebirds started playing at the Globe Hall every Saturday night. I'd heard that Norrie Paramore of EMI was on the lookout for new songs. We played some of our own compositions which were suitable for dancing, but earlier that year I'd written a slow ballad which I thought was worth submitting, and Bob Brown brought his Spanish guitar up to my home. I plugged in my electric guitar. We set up an old tape recorder, and this was the result.
This is the actual tape that I sent down to Norrie Paramore 46 years ago, and I did get a very nice reply, a letter just saying it wasn't suitable for their purposes at the time. Please will I send some more.
By late summer, the Firebirds played Fridays and travelled as far away as Millom. We'd become extremely popular and took over from the Defenders at Portinscale Youth Club each Wednesday evening. I bought an amplifier from Alistair Duncan, who was their lead guitarist. He was moving down to Liverpool. We've been the best of friends ever since that day. Alistair's claim to fame was backing Millie when she appeared in Maryport singing her #1 blockbuster. The Firebirds got their chance to play with the big boys and appeared with the VIPs in Spatria just before Christmas. The VIPs were releasing a string of records and were forecast to be Britain's next big thing, as Patrice Alf Ridley had joined them on bass. Both he and their incredible blues singer Mike Harrison would go on to become big names in the pop world. Their talented lead guitarist Jimmy Henshaw had just written a song for the Animals, Blue Blue Feeling, and this became a hit in America. My good friend Dave McComiskey had left Carlisle with his bass guitar and joined another band with a young lad called Eric Clapton.
For the Firebirds, playing with groups who'd been releasing records was a bit unsettling. Derek Tolson was ambitious. He wanted to do something special, and one day he announced we'd been offered a tour of Germany.
I had another training course in London, and there I again met up with the VIPs, who, despite their success, seemed to be struggling financially. Georgie Fame had a hit record and was appearing at the Flamingo Club, so I paid a visit. Down steep, dark stairs, I found this sweaty little room with a bar at the end, and the band were jammed into a small space at one side. Dave McComiskey had formed the Liverpool Five, and this year I spoke to him about it.
I was the first legit bass player to play with Eric Clapton. The band, we lasted about 5 months because Casey was a lunatic. I don't think we ever got paid.
You know I'm home today, don't you know that everything's alright, everything's alright.
We were actually in Germany in 62-63 when the Beatles were playing across the street.
Oh, little baby.
This was the toughest gig any musician could possibly acquire. 8 sets a night, 45 minutes on, 15 off. You started at 8:30 in the evening and you finished at 4:30. So you can imagine, I mean, it was like slave labor.
Nobody can. Let me give you love like nobody can.
Do you ever think we should have gone on the road, Billy, and gone semi-professional?
Well, I don't know. A lot of bands there in them days, some very, very good bands. Might have been okay, but a lot went to London and didn't make it.
Wise words from Billy. London streets were not paved with gold, and we didn't go to Germany.
The days of the Firebirds, there'll never be anything like that again.
We'd played just about every weekend, and some weekdays, whilst holding down demanding jobs at the same time. The Firebirds were exhausted and played their last gig under that name round about January 1965, almost 1 year after they'd started.
We're better on the bit, actually.
In the future, would the Firebirds rise from the ashes